Zanskar is located in India, northern of the Himalayan chain. It's a region of the Tibetan ethnic group and culture that belongs to the states of Jammu and Kashmir. For nearly 8 months a year, it is inaccessible by land because of snow and ice. Its capital, Padum, is reachable by 4-wheel drive car in the summer in a 2-day travel. We leave from Leh, following the course of the Indus River, leaving behind the monasteries in Ladakh, Likir with a huge golden statue of Buddha, Alchi with its splendid paintings, Lamayuru with its majestic complex, Shergol nestled in the mountains. After an almost 12-hour travel, we reach Kargil, outpost in a nearby Muslim region of Kashmir. After a stop for the night, we proceed on to Padum before dawn. We drive through the way of the glaciers, following the Suru River, a tributary of the Indus. The journey is not easy at all. Many difficulties put a strain on skill and fortitude of our drivers. These trails are subject to bad weather and to the hardness of natural elements. Contingencies are on the agenda: a flat tire, a large boulder in the middle of the road. One of our drivers monitors and reassures us. Once the road is free, we leave again. The narrow trail makes it difficult crossing with the public bus from Padum to Kargil. All the problems disappear before the colors and the immensity of the landscapes, which inscribe the presence of the sacred. It is carved in the stern and contemplative face of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. It sings the music of sacred nature in the sacred prayer wheels powered by water. He plays on the many walls, patiently carved pebbles with figures and sacred prayers. It dances with air and wind, along with colorful prayer flags. In these symbols, we breathe everywhere the inseparable union between spirituality and nature. We stop at a beautifully rugged valley a few kilometers far from the monastery of Rangdum. The hospitality of tourist facilities is Spartan but comfortable.
Very good. Very good and spicy.
At nearly 4,000 meters, Rangdum stands on a hill overlooking the Great Plain where 3 valleys intersect. In the small and shabby structure, under the gaze of a smiling old monk, we have the chance to observe some simple activities which mark the daily life in the religious communities. The laborious preparation of meals in a kitchen from another era. The patient constructions with the female yak butter of some offerings, which will be later used to decorate the altar in the central hall of the temple, where stands a statue of Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Yellow Caps, the reformed school of Buddhism that spread the Vajrayana message of love and peace of the Buddha from the 8th century. We leave Rangdum knowing we are going into one of the most remote places of Tibetan Buddhism. The signpost announces we are into the Zanskar Valley over the Penzila Pass at an altitude of 4,400 meters. In front of us stands the glacier Takar Durundrang, surrounded by mountain tops ZZ, named for the shape of their peaks. The evening shadows greet our arrival at Padum. Padum, the capital of Zanskar, is a cluster of low houses, small shops and offices on either side of the dusty main street. Offers some Spartan hotels, internet points and travel agencies family-owned. These are all signs of the openness to modernization of this region through the integration of local and modern culture. Young people learn new technologies. Some abandon farming and cattle breeding to take up a military or tourist career. Not far from the town of Padum, we found out the amazing testimony of the 5 rock-carved Supreme Buddha. Standing to their left, the depiction of Maitreya, the Buddha of the future. The style of the sculpture is affected in the movements by the Indian art. Figures are very ancient, dating ranges between the 1st and the 2nd century after Christ, and are probably work of the Mon, the ancient inhabitants of Zanskar. The placement of the rock near the river attests to the inseparable bond with the water and its meaning in the space of the sacred. In his run, the water is the symbol of the world and of its not being permanent. In the contemplative gaze of Buddha, perhaps the answer that each one of us is looking for by looking at the river. To the south of Padum stands the small monastery of Tagrimo, built during the 15th century. The monastery is small and cozy. A gentle monk opens the sacred plate for us, then returns to his activity, the preparation of devotional candles. Embraced by a beautiful blue sky, we live on to Zangla, the ancient capital of the tiny kingdom of Zanskar. Here's the palace of the Tashi Nagilgyalpo, the last king of the valley. The village is desert, shrouded in the silence of a blinding and unreal light, out of time. Unique voice, the wind, the gargle of an irrigation canal, the slow rocking of the ears of barley. We feel the same sensation in the nearby school of Buddhist nun. Everything is neat, clean and peaceful, but empty. We learn from an old man that all the inhabitants of the village, including nuns, have left to the festival of the monastery of Tondé. We can't lose such a chance. While traveling to Tondé, our gaze gets lost among the rocky pinnacles which seem authoritative and majestic sentries, deployed along the river to defend the barley fields. Barley is the only cereal which can be grown at these heights, and it is the basic ingredients of a zampa, barley flour toasted and water, which is the main course of the Zanskar feeding. Just after a few steps, we have the chance to run into a water mill. The rudimentary gimmick serves well to his main role, reducing the barley grains in precious flour. On a rocky promontory stands the temple of Tondé. Its origins date back to the 11th century. At the entrance, there's already a multicolored crowd coming from all the villages of the surroundings. During the short summer, in almost all the monasteries is held the Cham, a religious festival which is typical of ritual dances whose meaning is quite elaborate. This is an opportunity for locals to show off a new dress, to make small businesses, or meetings of friendship and love. Almost all locals wear the traditional clothing, ginger wool, simple cut and comfortable. Jewelry with natural stones are elements of color and decoration for women. Some of them wear a heavy headdress studded with turquoise and coral. It is usually raised by firstborn. Besides being an ornament, this hat is all the dowry and the wealth of the woman. Before the ceremony starts, a group of believers crowd in the temple to make offerings and prayers. Children peek into the rooms of the mosques. It's a show of varied humanity in which the religious aspect is linked to the profane in a great harmony and serenity. Among the crowd, even tourists armed with video cameras and cameras, but this does not affect the genuine nature of the event. Tourism began in 1974 with the opening of the road Kargil-Padum, and it is one of the wealth sources of the valley, especially for young Zanskari, as related by our young guide Tashi.
So it's very important, how we maintain the tourism with our cultures. Means whenever I used to go with tourists as a guide, I advise to the local people to preserve our culture. How we can preserve, because the tourists, like tourists, they are traveling so far from Europe or USA.
The sound of trumpets announces the beginning of the ceremony. From one side of the court, the procession of religious and musicians make its way. Meanwhile, from the central door are entering the Halla, a sort of clowns, whose responsibility, with their jokes and their swords, is to keep free the sacred space, or to accompany the entrance of the character Ashan, the smiling Buddha. The Lama attends the Cham. During the ceremony, with a few ritual objects, he performs a sacred gesture called mudra. In the courtyard are conducted three animals, the yak, the dog and the goat. Each one of them has a great importance in the life of the peasants. Some dancers do ritual laps around the animals to propitiate the higher spirits to be placed in the animals. The lama blesses the animals several times by sliding on their backs the little red toma, which in this case has a beneficial significance. With this gesture, the abbot of the monastery infuses in the animals the superior kind spirits. The ceremony continues with the launch of the barley flour. For this civilization, which has been basing for centuries its agriculture on the cultivation of this cereal, the ceremony clearly has direct links with fertility rites. While the animals are taken away, a procession, formed by the villagers, performs a propitiatory greeting dance. The general attention is drawn to the main door, from which the monks come, silky dressed and wearing large masks. It's up to them, the representation of Cham, whose aim is to show the faithful his way into the netherworld and the difficulties to be overcome to achieve freedom from desire and to end the painful cycle of reincarnation. Dances of Cham are performed by monks and are an integral part of their spiritual training. The mask, the costume and the accessories, as well as music and prayers, are the tools through which consciousness gets in touch with the deity, till being able to identify with it. With dance, a seemingly simple form of communication, the Cham tell the faithful the eternal struggle of human consciousness between good and evil. The ritual choreographies become in this way a kind of moving meditation, a mandala, a prayer meditation reflection in which the main players, those peaceful and worthful deities, are manifestations of dynamic and static omniscient mind, the Buddha, and at the same time the bright and dark aspects of the human being. The complex symbolism of the dances is counterbalanced by the popular devotion, showed by the inhabitants of the village with money duly registered by the religious. For each believer, it's a great honor to participate in the sustenance of the monks, who returns with prayers and blessings. Some of these crowd around the spouses of the last year, covering them of kata, votive scarves offered as a sign of good omen. The dances are about to end. The evil was exorcised by the beneficent deity in the tournament that the Lama carries out of the sacred area. The Torma is a votive object whose meaning can be positive or negative. It's made of wood and yak butter with the addition of the ashes of cremated bodies. The last act of the ceremony involves destroying the Torma by the Lama, who has imprisoned all the evil forces, all the negativity adverse of liberation of consciousness from the bondage of desires and human passions. Feast times are followed by working times. Alone or in groups, everyone is engaged in some occupation. Everywhere, you breathe a quiet activity. In the short summer season, all the inhabitants of the valley are busy restructuring their homes or building new ones. Houses are made of bricks manufactured on the spot. The housing shape is quite single, a rectangle with squared windows etched in black. Just like with ants, the Zanskar people prepare themselves to face the long winter. Very important is the collection of fuel, mainly consisting of cattle dry excrements. The collection is not pleasant, but it is absolutely necessary. The altitude does not allow the growth of tall trees, only bushes. Mostly perched on the tops of the mountains like Arsha, or lying on a valley as Sani, last home of the great Buddhist teacher Naropa. All the temples in Zanskar, each one with its own peculiarity, tell about the journey of the message of the Buddha in the Himalayan country, with a simple architecture useful to the climate and materials that the region offers. The main structure of the temple is built in local stone. The front, slightly trapezoidal, is marked by a porch supported by wooden columns, whose summit is dominated by the symbol of deer and the wheel of law, which is typical of the Mahayana school, one of the two main strands of Buddhism. For the Mahayana school, also known as the Great Vehicle, the believer can aspire to salvation with the help of the holy men, the Bodhisattva, who having achieved enlightenment and the potential for liberation from samsara, the cycle of rebirth, continue to lend their help and to be a model for humanity. Such a message, in a culture which has been mainly oral for centuries, was transmitted through the art of painting frescoes and beautiful tanka, paintings on cloth. As for the sacred dance, every shape, every color can represent the events of the Buddha's life, his disciple, and bodhisattva or other sacred concept expressed through the sacred player drawings, the mandala, that allows the faithful to get in touch with the all. Unlike the Western sacred art, the Buddhist one is rarely signed. There's no individualistic exaltation of the artist, as the value of the work of the individual is put at the service of the message. The art, thus achieving refined peaks, is just a tool, not an aim to exalt itself. The Wind of Progress writes his story with many technology tools, but as in fairy tales, in the valley of Zanskar, in a small stone hut, an old lama lives in retirement. Once he was the abbot of the monastery of Barden, now he is an hermit. His name is Nawang Tashi. He is 79 and he has a dream.
I learned how to carve wood when I was a boy in a monastery of Zunkul, when I studied to become monk. Then, when I was 60, I returned here, in this small house, to find solitude, peace, tranquility, to carve these prayer boards. My greatest regret is that I am now 79 and I have no student to teach this art. Last year I was told by the village that they would send some boys, but nobody came here. There will be nobody to keep on with my work.
Texts are carved prayers, Buddha's teachings, translated from Sanskrit into Tibetan. The text is first written on a sheet of paper and then glued on the table. After, you proceed to carve each single letter. These tables are then used to print the prayers on paper or on canvas cloth. Sheets of prayer will be recited by the monks during religious services. Drapes, hanging like flags, will spread the words of the Buddha thanks to the wind. From the roof of the small monastery of Karsha, a young monk greets us. With him, we say goodbye to the Zanskar, the land where the valleys touch the sky, kissed by the smile and the humanity of its people.